Howdy, and welcome to Communiwhat Wednesday. I am Dr. Dana Martin. Uh, Not sure how this is going to go, but let's go. Because if you're just sitting there, you're not growing. If you're just standing there, you're not growing. You could think about growing. You can think about your plan to grow. You can think about your strategy to grow. But if you're not actually moving forward and taking a step, what are you doing? You're just thinking. There is a place for that, but that's not this place. This place is about movement. This place is about moving forward, especially within the realm and scope of communication and drilling down a little further communication within leadership. So, what is Communiwhat? Last week, we had an event where we invited everyone that was in our newsletter subscription base and advertised just for a few days on here. And we had 6 people come and to the Communiwhat workshop. Um, where I talked about the Communiwhat communication framework and where Communiwhat began and why I came up with this back in 2010. Well, at least the concept of Communiwhat. It's gone through much refinement over the years. So last week we did that. The week or the day before or last week we did a test for this. So this is another kind of test run for Communiwhat, and I hope you find some value in it as we talk through some things. I'll definitely be fixing whatever's happening with this camera, but certainly we're going to try to make a habit of this and doing this once a week on Wednesdays, Communiwhat Wednesday. So let's jump in. One of the cool things about getting to do this kind of work is the application piece, right? Seeing things that you can put together being used in the real world. And what happened in the, let's jump over here. And what happened in our workshop um, was we went through communication and specifically the Communiwhat framework. And I showed this picture. This is a picture from 2010 of my whiteboard in my cubicle in my first supervisory job. I had been a supervisor for about, I think at that point, 6 to 8 months. And I was in this meeting with several other departments, and the director was asking for some information and told me to go and get some data. And I did the data mining and came back to him at a different meeting and was told he had given that assignment to someone else as well. Both of us came back to the table, neither of which had what our director was asking for. So very angrily went back to my desk because that was several man hours, probably a total between the two of us of 8 man hours, just wasted essentially on nothing, when maybe a little clarity in the vision for the project or maybe at least the end goal. What is it that you're looking for? What problem are we trying to solve? Et cetera, et cetera. I went back to my desk. I sat down and I wrote in red, because red signifies importance. It also signifies anger. And I wrote communication angrily in red. And I sat back down, and one of my employees later became a supervisor as I progressed, of course, leaving legacy. That's a lesson for another time. Um, Kind of gave me a all right, and kind of walked out. He could tell I was fuming, and I took my black marker and I just scratched out cation because it wasn't communication. But what was it? What happened? And I wrote then in blue, what? What? That's what happened. It was that's not what I meant, because that's all the director could say when he would look through our material. It was that's not what I meant. That's not what I meant. So what is what? Anytime that you hear or that you say, that's not what I meant, that's what? Sounds simple enough to define, but how do we fix it? Well, 5 steps to fix this. And so for the next 5 weeks, we're just going to spend a few minutes talking about each one. But we will walk through the framework first, which is number 1, intent. If you don't define The intent of this conversation, if you don't define that, then your emotions are going to, and they're going to come out in ways maybe you think you have a way to filter. The purpose of this conversation is that simple. What is the intent of the conversation? Takes a little bit of a pause to determine an intent. Let's say you get some knowledge, and it's so and so. Your coworker failed at a project, right? And you are going to your manager to let them know. What is the intent? Is it to try to get this person in trouble? Is it to try to gaslight your your boss? Is it to give them assistance, to offer your assistance? Hey, I think I know how we can fix that. Do you mind if I go share? What's the intent of sharing that knowledge? Number two, context. People don't resist change, they resist the confusion that comes from a lack of clarity. What are they missing in the context or in the scope? In the example that created What, there was a whole lot missing. I didn't understand. I was told, go look at data. I had to make it up as I went. There was zero context. Confirmation. If you don't confirm it, you didn't communicate it. And that to me is one of the most influential pieces in this entire framework. Just because you said it, that doesn't mean that communication actually occurred. And a way to approach that is real simply, can you walk me through what you just heard? That's not assuming they heard wrong. That's making sure what you communicated is what was received. And I think I skipped one. Context, intent, context, confirmation, control. No, I'm missing one. Oh no. Give me one moment. This is why this is a there it is, clarity. So number three is clarity. Number four is confirmation. Number five, looks like I need to fix my slides, is control. If you don't control the moment, your emotions will. We just talked about emotions in number one, intent. Am I reacting in this moment? Everything that just happened, was that a reaction? Was I leading in that moment? So let's go back to intent. Intent is awesome. Oh, and I want to encourage, if anyone is watching and you want to pop a question into the chat, please feel free. All right. If you don't define it, your emotions will. Intent. I want to talk about a conversation that you probably have quite often. Walk into my job, I grab my coffee, don't really talk to anyone, and I sit down and I get an email. And the email says, the subject is, can you please talk to your employee? And I read the email, and the email says, your employee did X. We know X is not acceptable. Y occurred because your employee did X. We need this handled. So I receive this message and I read it, and instantly I determine the intent of the message I'm receiving as the individual's upset. The individual wants something done to or about this individual that has made a mistake. And three, some other reparations of some sort. Never actually addresses what to do with the customer complaint that started this entire email string. So, me being who I am, questioning the intent, respond in kind, gently, to be sure I understand, comma, what is it you would like for me to do in this situation outside of coaching my agent? There was, well, of course I want blah, 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 and gave me everything I needed. Respond. Thank you. We will reply with results shortly, what have you. Now, why do I bring that up? Because in that moment, I probably could have responded a little nasty. I could have gotten upset. I understood in that moment that just because I know that intention in communication is the primary piece to ensuring that communication happens, understanding what my intent is as I'm speaking, I can't assume everybody thinks that. And quite frankly, just because I know that doesn't mean I do it every single time. So I have to take those in a way that and respond in a way that I can still get context or I can still get clarity. Also, gaining the intent. Because if I know what the intent is in that email, if he has one line, can we please address this with the agent and assist the client? If he says this in this email exchange in the very beginning, my response is we're on it, right? There is nothing else. So we have another layer when intent is not clear. It's costly. Intent was not clear in the Communiwhat example at the very beginning that we talked about. In the Communiwhat example, that was 4 of my man hours wasted at at that time, uh, at that time, and I'm not gonna tell you when, 17.85 an hour. Uh, yeah, at that time, 4 hours of my life, and I was a new supervisor still trying to learn, like, that was a lot of time. 4 hours of the other individual's time, 8 hours of time. That's costly to an organization. Time and time again. You think this is the only time that this happened in this organization that had communications in its name? Certainly not. I mean, just as they fail, of course I fail. We all fail in communication. But that's why we practice. That's why we have structures that we can frameworks that we can put in our minds to practice over and over again so that we can get better at being communicators. Intent. If you don't define it, your emotions will. Let's look back at the example. So, the example of the email, I could sense by tone without establishing intent in a sentence out loud in the email. By the tone of the email, they were upset and their emotions defined the context of the email. Their emotions defined the intent. The intent was this guy messed up and I'm going to tell somebody about it because I'm mad. That came out kind of sassy. I didn't mean it to come out that way. But that's probably how he felt. I'm mad. And I get that. I've been there. But let's be clear. I'm sure the individual that sent it did not intend for it to come across that bad. So I don't hold it against them. I understand I need to ensure that I'm doing what I can in this exchange to make this communication successful. And because I know the rules and because I know the framework, I have to pause. And now I'm engaging in this conversation. What is my intent now in this conversation? I have the intent to understand what happened, sure. But my priority intent is the client. What does the client need? How can I help? What is the timeline? If I can establish that, I'm golden. We can circle back to the failure piece and grow from that opportunity. But right now, what is my intent? My intent, of course, initially is to throw up the wall, the defensive wall, and roll out the cannon and say, well, your guys, what's my intent? Is my intent to fire a salvo back at that individual? No. My intent is the client. So my response in kind, nice, professional, tell us what you need. I got the response I needed. The client got what they needed. The agent got the coaching. Where's the harm? But I'll tell you this, the most important piece out of all this was the pause. I paused before I angry typed. There was a time in my career, certainly I would just angry type and send. And then there was another point where I felt like I grew. I angry typed and then I backspaced. That's really not growing. I guess maybe it is. You need to still get it out. But now I'm at the point in my career, well, why? Like, what's the point? Why should I get so frustrated and so upset at someone's continued uh, failures as a communicator when I'm not doing anything about it? But Dana, I mean, this is my coworker. I'm not going to tell them how to talk any better to me, or they're not going to listen if I tell them don't talk to me that way. Or I, each situation is a little different, certainly. But the framework works no matter who you talk to, because intent in conversation, intent in communication matters. When my when my wife comes home and she comes through the door, what is my intent in my conversation to her? Is it talk to me about your day, decompress? I know you need that release, whatever, because I want her to be able to communicate and get everything out that she might need, or let us go ahead and talk about the weekend now, or whatever. Let's just do all this now. What's my intent? Well, my intent in that is I need to get all this out. So I'm going to ask as soon as she comes to the door that we converse. What if that's not the best time for them to converse? What if that's not the best time for them to be wholly with you to have a conversation? You have to take the intent down, perhaps another level. Maybe the intent in the conversation that I'm having with this employee, they're not up to productivity levels. You've applied several means to train them. They're not learning. You're trying to have communication with them to understand where that gap might be. But you're frustrated because perhaps you stuck your neck out for this individual. You're frustrated because you've invested a lot into this individual and you're not getting a lot in return. And now you're about to have a difficult conversation with this individual. But what's the intent? Is the intent to make them better? Or is the intent to protect you a little bit? This is a hard conversation for leaders to have with themselves. If my employee fails after my investment into them, does that make me a failure? Well, that's not a question I can answer. And that's not a question anyone can answer but you. But I assure you, if you've done everything, it's the old you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink, right? So, what's the intent of that conversation for performance? Is it maybe a little bit of pride? Look, I've already done everything I can for you. This is all on you. I have to protect my leadership street cred that I'm a people developer. You're not developing. Going to have this hard conversation. Pull back the onion layers even on you. Is it about the individual or is it about potentially something else? I'm not saying it is or is not. I'm just saying that's why it's important to pause. Pause. Think of the intent of the conversation. I can tell you, I've had the conversations from personal experience with employees where when I reevaluate years later, what really was the intent? There was some selfish intent there. That's not an easy thing to admit for any leader, but I assure you, using those moments, going back in those moments, speaking with people about those moments has made a larger impact in their lives and in mine, all because I've learned to pause for the most part and understand the intent within the conversation. Intent's a huge one, man. Um, I wish it were I wish it was easy to understand intent on the receiving end within the first 5 seconds. Are there tricks? Are there body language pieces? Are there things? Certainly, there are ways you can read folks. I had took a lot of nonverbal in my undergrad. I thought, if I could read a person, I could understand a person, no matter what their mouth may be moving or saying. Um, I might be able to connect with them because I understand them. Uh, my intent, I just said connect. Anyone who knows me, it really is about connecting with people. Certainly I'm not perfect, but those failures, man, if you can look at them as an opportunity to be better, why wouldn't you? I can either, you know, kick myself over and over again for an employee that I missed on, right? Like that turned out like I was wrong. That has only happened once. Every other time I've been right. Um, and even to the point of having an employee, I say recently in the last say 8 years, come up to me and like quit and tell me thank you because my conversation truly wasn't for them. It's what are you doing? Just go somewhere else, man. Like don't work here if you don't want to be here because I don't want you here unless you want to be here. One of my mantras, and my employees will tell you, is everyone's wanted, nobody's needed. Dr. Michael Mittendorf taught me that in college. I was part of a small group, music group that traveled, was representative of the school I went to, and he said that to me once. He said I was getting a little maybe cocky, too big for my britches, playing guitar, singing, and he said, "Remember, Dana, everyone's wanted and nobody's needed. Be someone that's wanted, not someone that's needed." And I never really understood that until I got really deep in the workforce. And so I think about that when I think about intent. Am I the manager that people want for the right reasons, right? Or am I just the manager that's needed in the moment? And currently in my job, I feel like everything I'm the monument, right? Like everything's got to pass through me. Cuts, we lose positions, you take on more responsibility, and now everything kind of comes through me and I'm needed. But I don't want to be needed in an organization. I want to be wanted. I want the organization to know that I add value and pay me for it, right? So, bringing it back to intent, it's all about the intent. What is it that I'm being intentional about in this conversation? What am I being intentional about in my career? What am I being intentional about? Am I letting my emotions run this conversation? Because if it's letting my emotions going to run this conversation, then it's communication's not going to happen. So, Um, it looks like it's saying that sending messages is not supported. So if anyone did watch, my apologies that the messages did not work. But these are available and will be available for a little while, I think like 30 days or so. And we will figure that part out because the other half of this, I want to be more about us talking through any communication problems you might be facing, maybe a difficult conversation you're going to need to have with somebody, or just trying to get more information on how to be a better communicator. So, Welcome to the Communiwhat podcast. Thank you for watching the Communiwhat Wednesday podcast, and we will do more of these. Thank you all. We'll see y'all later. Oh, always remember, and I'm going to say this a lot.